What is good, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and this one will break down what's going on with Tesla stock and talk about something very important that happened on Friday to Tesla and expose some very interesting things that could be used to manipulate Tesla stock. Now, before I break anything down about all this information, before I talk more about what's going on with Tesla's share price, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, when it comes to Tesla, we saw Tesla trade in a very strange manner as of recent. Tesla got a nice pump in the morning on Friday, came down, started pumping again, then started selling off very sharply as the day went on. Now, why did Tesla sell off like this? I went over this yesterday. Just in essence, and very bluntly, we had lots of data that came out in the morning. The market was trading sideways in the beginning. Then the market ended up getting this very nice bullish triangle, broke out, and we formed a nice bull trap. Lots of people, lots of uh, individuals and retail started buying into the market as after we saw SPY break above 442. And this ended up being a trap for a lot of buyers way up here because they were suspecting that the market would fill the gap up here. They thought SPY would make its way all the way up there. And simultaneously, Tesla had good news and started actually pumping off good news. And despite good news coming out for Tesla, the whole market started selling off near the end of the day. It continued to sell off. And this caused Tesla to also slow down. So it's very important to note this. As the market ended up slowing down, as a result of that, we saw Tesla slow down with the markets. And this was an entire trap that formed. This trapped a lot of individuals and retail investors. And then once we broke below the trend line, we had our important support at 441.5. Once that failed, we had 440.5 and etc. And the market continued to sell off. But what more am I going to add to this that's very important? You have to remember that this was max pain for SPY, this 438 level, excuse me, and that's where SPY ended up dropping to. But for Tesla, Tesla got basically manipulated because of this, because of the whole market that played a role in dictating its algorithm. But there's more to it than just that. Simultaneously, we saw a lot of shorts piling into Tesla. They started to just load the boat on Tesla short positions, and that played a role in why Tesla dropped. We saw some potential selling pressure maybe near the end of the week, some profit taking, which tends to happen during like weekends, especially because we had the 4th of July weekend and it was the end of the week, so it's nothing like out of the ordinary. But it's also because what's very strange about it is Tesla didn't have any negative news. So this wasn't really because of Tesla, anything fundamental. This just had to do with the whole market restructuring and repositioning. And after Tesla broke below particular EMAs and it broke below like 278 or so, we saw some algos starting to sell on Tesla even more than before. That also played a role in dragging it down. But there's another factor that could be very strange that could be playing a role in this. I'm not promising anything. I'm just saying it's a possibility. And I just want to note what that additional factor could be. Because you have to remember, the news for Tesla was quite good, yet Tesla sold off pretty sharply at the end of the day. And why was that? Why did that happen? There are many reasons I just named, but there could be another reason through dark pools. So, what are dark pools? What does this have to do with Tesla? Why is this so important? Well, it's very important to understand this if you are a trader because this could cause lots of volatility or maybe even less volatility depending on how they're used for different stocks out there. If you don't know what dark pools are, I'm just going to briefly go over what they are. And then I'm going to talk more about, how this relates to Tesla. So when you're buying and selling different stocks, you're doing this on exchanges. If you're doing this on the New York Stock Exchange, if you're doing this on the Nasdaq, basically your orders are going to be open to the market. They can see what you're doing. It's like free and etc. But the thing about that is having a free market is there are also dark pools which have both pros and cons. There are alternative markets where institutions could buy and sell stocks with differences from trades on traditional public stock markets. So they could basically buy and sell Tesla in a way, right? They could do certain things on these dark pools, and people are not going to know about it openly for the open markets. These are like separate private exchanges. Now, they're private markets basically where institutions could trade securities without having to route their orders to the public stock exchange. And the SEC allows this, of course, because there are some pros and cons to it. This is basically going to be used as a tool for many of these institutions to not really cause more volatility for stocks and to do other things like that. So there are a bunch of different exchanges where these different stocks are going to be traded, right? We could have different mutual funds, putting sell orders on the Nasdaq. Well, that's going to cause a big amount of volatility. This is what this is trying to tell us. But they could do this on the dark pools and actually reduce how much volatility there is for a stock. Now, going down to this, let me just talk about the pros and cons of these. So these are basically like separate markets where institutions can make moves that are not open to the public to see. Now, the uses for the dark pools, they can be used by mutual funds, pensions, other capital management firms, and etc. They could be used to essentially buy big blocks of stocks at lower spreads, and they'll have less impacts on prices. What else is useful for it? It could lead to high frequency trading shops right over here. That's going to be used for them to basically capitalize on arbitrage strategies and other things like that. They could also route transactions amongst wholesalers, so that could be useful too. But what are the pros and cons of this? The pros are there's going to be a reduced impact on the stock market when these big whales start buying and selling in large amounts. Less volatility in a way, less fees, lower spreads, which could bring better executions for those who are participating, and other factors like that. The cons are the lack of transparency because the public markers the public markets, excuse me, guys, I'm sorry about that. The public markets, are supposed to be open to the majority of people. They're not always like that though, because different institutions can do things privately. But many people could argue very contentious things about this system. There could be, potential conflicts of interests that could be going on, poor branding, and other factors like that. But many other factors could continue to, go on like this. Now, another thing that's worth noting is the fact that institutions can make money off other people thanks to these types of systems, and they could, manipulate stocks in many ways with these dark pools as well. Am I promising that this happened to Tesla? Not necessarily, but it is a possibility, right? It's just worth noting. So when you look at Tesla, right, Tesla's off-lit exchange volume was about 68%. So out of the entire volume on Tesla, the majority of Tesla's volume we saw at 113 million actually was happening on those off-lit exchanges. So imagine how high the volume would have been if it wasn't for all of this volume that was going to these off-lit exchanges. And this is important because this is manipulating Tesla's share price possibly to some degree. Now, what's going to happen if there are all these buy orders coming onto Tesla and they possibly could have been rerouted into the dark pools, the off-lit exchanges, right? If 67 to 68% of a stock's volume is just going on these off-lit exchanges or dark pools, that could be a sign of another mechanism that is going to help slow Tesla down. That could have been used for that manner. I'm not promising it's just a possibility, right? This is speculation, not a guarantee. And it's very suspicious, right? It's very, very suspicious stuff that could be going on. But why am I talking about this? That's because on Thursday, we saw 69% dark pool volume on Tesla. For Friday, it was about just under 68%. So we're starting to see an increase in the amount of dark pool activity on Tesla. And we're simultaneously starting to see, Tesla cool off a bit. So could this be a coincidence, or could it be that some of the volume could be being rerouted into the dark pools without people even realizing it? Could that be what's going on? Who knows, right? Who knows? But the point I'm trying to make is the fact that there are kind of suspicious things going on ever since the news came out that we saw a lot more Tesla shares being shorted. And this could be a mechanism to manipulate Tesla. Now, as I said before, we have another round of big catalysts coming out for the market. So that's not going to be the only factor that affects Tesla. It's not just about the shorts. It's not just about all these other things. It's also going to depend on the separate pieces of data coming out, and that's also going to be affecting Tesla. So just to remind you all that we have some Fed speakers on Monday. For Tuesday, we have Bullard giving a speech and just some data coming out involving the optimism index for businesses. And then for Wednesday, we have CPI coming out. That's going to be very big for the whole market, including Tesla. And then as we approach these days, as Tesla approaches its earnings and etc., and earnings is going to be on July 19th, by the way. As long as Tesla tries to hold these levels, if it drops again, I'm hoping Tesla gets a nice bounce first thing after that happens. And if Tesla could just maintain a decent position by the time we get to like Friday, even after all this data comes out, there's a good chance Tesla's going to get a nice rally as we approach, the later weeks, starting on like July 17th. The Monday, which is going to be the last Monday before earnings, we could start to see Tesla improve in price action. Because generally, before these big earnings events, Tesla tends to pump approaching them in anticipation of hype and etc. So that's basically what I'm seeing going on for Tesla moving forward. So for like the short term, okay, we could see some downside for Tesla. We have to be very careful here. We also have a CPI report coming out in just a couple of days. If it breaks below 270, that's going to be your confirmation of this potential like gap fill, 268 to 270 specifically. If it comes down to fill this gap, it is what it is. It's going to try to bounce very close to where it was. If that's the case, if we get a very, very nice balance and Tesla tries to just make its way back up closer to the current levels, and if we manage to do this by Friday of the week that's coming, Tesla could still make a nice move to the upside approaching earnings and still try to recover most of the losses. That still is very, very possible and on the table and very likely, in my opinion. But until all this data comes out, I want to just keep this video as short as possible. Please be open minded because shorts are starting to pile into Tesla and the odds are starting to favor a bit of a slowdown. It is what it is. There's not much I can do about it, but I can only talk about the current trend, which is looking a little bit more bearish on Tesla. So just watch it carefully. We will see what happens for the week and be calm, cool, and collected because, yes, even if Tesla does sell off a bit, it's okay. We could make a nice recovery, a nice push up as we approach earnings, and we will see what earnings bring. Could earnings cause Tesla to just squeeze to the moon? It's a possibility. Or could earnings lead to Tesla getting a rug pull? That's another possibility too. And also for the whole market, okay, we have big tech earnings coming out for like Apple and Alphabet and all these different companies over the next couple of weeks. That is going to determine if SPY gets another rally into the 450s. Is SPY going to go to 450 to 460? Or is SPY going to get another rug pull and come all the way back down to the 420s or lower? That is going to depend on earnings. Earnings are going to be very big this time around, especially with all the volatility in the markets. So make sure you are ready for this and make sure you are prepared for this. When are earnings starting? Over the next couple of weeks. Tesla has its earnings in about less than 2 weeks from now on July 19th. And we also have more earnings coming out over the next couple of days. You can't forget we have like Alphabet just a few weeks away. We have Apple by the end of July and just a bunch of them. So be ready. This will dictate how the market does as we approach like August and etc. And be prepared. This is going to be very, very big for the markets. The next few weeks are going to be huge. All right. Thank you all so much for listening. Get ready for lots of volatility. I want the best for everyone. Don't worry too much. Don't be too scared. Remain calm, cool, and collected, as I always say on this channel. Thank you. Tesla to the moon, and peace out.